Hey guys, live on a Sunday. So we've got a special guest joining us today. We've been lucky enough to have some exposure to Dom before, Primetime Treasure Hunter. He graciously has had us on a couple times now, one for a bit of a chat with Zach and also a thrift battle, which was awesome.
For a showdown
against our Pure Hustle podcast. So we thought it was about time we got Dom down under because he's been supporting a lot of Aussies and helping us all grow as a community. And that's sort of what we want to talk a little bit about tonight as well, was networking and growth as well as part of Dom's journey. So without further ado, we'll get him up on the screen, have a bit of a chat about what's been happening for him. And if you guys have any questions along the way, please drop them in the chat. We'll try and pick them up as much as we can. And let's get the show on the road.
Let's do it.
All right.
Hey, Dom.
Hey, what's going on?
Yeah, thanks for joining us. It's been a bit of time coming now. We've sort of wanted to have you on for quite a while because you graciously helped us firstly get over the 1,000 subscriber mark over on your Facebook group. And then you've supported us all the way through. We had a great chat a while ago. And then we had the big thrift battle against Pure Hustle podcast on your channel. So
that was legendary. People still talk about that.
that was a great show and we really enjoyed it. So we thought time to get you down under, give you a bit of exposure in Australia, which I'm sure you have a lot of viewers down here as it is. But thought if we could get a couple more over to your channel and see the Primetime Treasure Hunter get over that 20K because you're not too far off it. So
I'm getting close. I can't believe it. It's amazing. Yeah, it's like less than 300 away.
New channel.
It does. So we'll just say a quick hello to a few people in the chat. Thank them all for being here, and then we'll get straight into your story and a bit of a chat after that. We've got Scotty and Aussie in the house dropping in. Midwest Picker, I think he's over from the US. You're saying g'day in the chat. We've got Lee. Diver Flipper's another great Aussie. You should definitely have a chat to him at some point. He's a great dude. Thrifty Pixie.
Afternoon, Cara.
Cara's here. Reselling Wiz. Red Cardinal Treasures. I think that's a new one to the channel. So thanks for coming. James. We have Sam, Second Life Sales, another great Aussie in the chat. Shirley Boland, Diver Flippers dropped your YouTube channel so people can go over and have a look.
Thanks, Flipper.
Saucy Snags, Cajun Reseller, and James. We've got a few people in. It's a sort of a weird time to be having a live for us Aussies, but we always have to sort of work around international because our time zones are all over the shop. So it's 8 o'clock for you, right, Dom?
Yeah.
8 p.m. Eastern. So it's always tough to get a time that works for both parties, but we've organized this time and I'm sure heaps of people will watch back as well. So let's find out a little bit about you, Dom, before we get into it. So I want to know where reselling started for you and who sort of pushed you into reselling and where's it sort of grown to?
Well, really, if you want to go all the way back to the true origins of reselling for me, it has to do with comic books. I would, collect comic books as a kid, collecting them since about the age of 8. And, as I just continued to grow and amass my comic book collection, eventually what I did back in the day is we didn't quite have a driver's license yet. So we would beg our parents, me and a couple of my friends, to get us together and drive down to a local outdoor flea market in New Jersey. And, we get up super early in the morning, like 6 o'clock, just a couple of, plastic tables, plastic chairs, and a radio, sit out there all day, put out our comic book boxes, and try to sell them. Now, we weren't buying them, though, originally to resell them. So it wasn't like how you would think of it, as we think of reselling today, but it still was reselling. And that was my first experience really doing that. And back then, when I was a kid, there was no eBay around or anything like that. But eBay came out, in the mid to late 90s. And at that time, I started going to graduate school to pursue my doctoral degree in what I now work as is a clinical neuropsychologist. So that's a full-time job that I have in addition to what I feel like is full-time hours I put into reselling YouTube, Facebook, and all the other stuff that I'm doing. But at that time, we were fortunate enough to be living down in South Florida. And there's this big, huge area called, it's like miles long it's like an outdoor flea market. It's called the Swap Shop, a small indoor component, but we would just go and we would look around for stuff that we thought was cool. There was no way to check comps on a phone because there was no eBay app. We would look look at some things, and we'd eye it, and we'd say, okay, this looks interesting. Let's bring it home, try to sell it on eBay. Back then, eBay was an auction-only site. There was no such thing as buy it now. And sometimes we would buy something like a Charlie Brown Peanuts item, bring it back. We bought for 50 cents, sell it for $35. And we're like, wow, that's amazing. Other times we'd buy something we were sure this was going to be valuable, and then we'd bring it back home and we'd find out, because there's no app to check at the place, we'd find out that, and we didn't have as much experience, that there's 50 other people that have the same item and it doesn't look like it's going to sell. So we made a lot of mistakes, but we also made a lot of successes, and by doing that, it helped develop a good eye. At that time, shows started to come on television, which I'm hoping you get over there. Like, do you get American Pickers? And
yeah, we do.
Yeah. Okay. And like Storage Wars and stuff like that. Like, those types of shows started to come on. And so I was fascinated with the Antique Roadshow. Do you get that?
Yes. Yeah.
They go over to England and do some stuff there. So I don't know if did they ever come over to Australia?
I think we did have a couple where they came down under, but Australia is quite young in terms of history, so
we don't have
a huge amount of antiques here. Like, a lot of them get brought in, obviously, but in terms of Australian antiques, they're few and far between. So
yeah, it's funny. See, I saw Dyer of the Flipper saying always interesting to hear from people that had to deal with eBay in the early days. So like, I was using it before there was even PayPal. So people would send you money, like cash, in envelopes, and you open up, there would be change in there. And so sometimes people would send money order or a check, and then you had to wait for the check to clear. It was a big pain. So when PayPal came out, like, we just take it for granted now. Oh, PayPal, right? I'll PayPal you. But it was like a revolutionary thing when it came out, because there's this whole big delay. You would sell something and you have to wait like a week to get the check so that you could then finally send it out. It was crazy. So so that's how far I go back with it. And I was doing that for about 4 years or so, like throughout graduate school, just using it to make some extra spending money. Went on, build up my career as a neuropsychologist and stuff. And then once I got to like mid-career with that, and I felt like I had accomplished a lot of the things I was doing, I was still kind of selling on eBay, like on the side a little bit, but not really intently. I then started to try to rebuild my comic book collection from when I was a kid several years ago, because I stupidly sold it when I was younger to get a Sega Genesis. So it was the dumbest thing I ever did. Oh, I love that Sega Genesis. Now it pains me because I'll see a Sega Genesis at a flea market, like on the ground, that I could buy for like $5. So it's just the things you do. You make dumb decisions when you're younger and stuff. So anyway, but I guess I'm kind of glad that I did it in a way, because it's weird how things work out, right? Like, I'm cursing myself for a large part of my life for doing this. My kids were mad at me because as they got older, they're like, Dad, I wish you had all those comic books. So what I started to do is I was literally trying to rebuild it. So I was trying to remember all the books I had, and I was literally going on eBay and I was purchasing them. I was going to comic shops, purchasing them. And as I started doing that, I started to realize that as I was developing relationships, which I know we're going to talk about a lot tonight, that, wow, there's a lot of money to be made if I could purchase collections at a bulk price and then flip the comic books. And I'm like, well, this is something I really know a lot about. I used to do this when I was little. Let me start doing that. So I started to go out myself and purchase whole collections. Started light, like hundreds, then buying them in the thousands, and just started to increase. And as I started doing that and making money with it and seeing, that this was something that was going to work out, because I already had the eBay experience from the past, I then started to dabble in other collectibles and stuff, like the kind of stuff I was getting at the flea market. And just started buying things, old maps, old advertising, old bottles, and you name it, anything vintage, even clothing, whatever, I buy and I sell it. And those sales started to come in, and then it just, blew up. And so over the last 3 years or so, it's been, really intense. I've just been nonstop with it. And then in addition to that, growing the social media with creating the Facebook group, the Facebook Reselling Resource Center, which now has over 22,000 people. And as you mentioned, the YouTube channel is almost up to 20,000. So that's the Cliff Notes version of all of it.
I do have your YouTube channel and Facebook group sorted, and we'll sort of get into that. I'll show them up a bit later on, because there's some interesting parts of those Facebook and social networking that you've sort of pioneered in a way, I sort of think, in the way that you've done a lot of your group stuff. So
Thanks,
I'll
brother.
just say a quick hello to a few more that dropped in. Tesla Picker, good to see you, Dave. Midwest Picker, Cajun Reseller, we said hello. A few more dropped in. We've got Robbie, the Aussie VHS thrifter, which I know you're aware of.
What's up, Robbie?
He's a good
And
dude.
Carol Cedrone, the CEO of my Facebook group, is here. We can't forget her.
Thanks for dropping in, Carol. And Duncan, good to see you, Duncan. So yeah, we sort of wanted to hear a bit about the backstory, and we want to know obviously you just said you wanted to rebuild your collection, but is that your why now? Like, I know you've probably got most of that collection back.
Yeah.
Are you just looking to add to the money incoming in the house? Like, what's your why of reselling?
Well, why do I do? Well, it's not to get the collection anymore. The collection kind of stopped at that point. Like, I built it up to what it was. My kids really stopped caring. And so now, it is what it is. And I just kind of leave it at that. So now, no, my why now is, and this is another reason, you're right, I didn't really mention this. It was kind of going on at the same time. I'm sitting there and I'm saying, you know what? I'm getting older. I'm like, I like my job, like what I do, but it's a salary-based job. It goes up a little bit each year, but it is what it is. And, I have 2 kids that they're going to want to go to college one day. And, some people, they take a little money at a side out of their check and they put it, and they save it. And, that's all well and good and stuff. But then I start looking at how much college tuitions are. And I'm like, this isn't going to cut it. Like, I need something else that's going to bring in some additional funds. And also just to feel just a greater sense of comfort and stuff and, security and stuff. So that was a big motivator, and that continues to motivate me to this day, and probably will continue to be a motivation, until, as all parents want, your kids to be, independent and, able to, function okay, and to, making sure, that they got through school and stuff like that. So that's really a big motivator for me, and why I just it just helps me just stay motivated and just kind of relentless with it, essentially.
Yeah, you definitely are. Like, to maintain a full-time job, your Facebook group, which is growing by the day, and we will touch on that a bit later because that goes into sort of the growth and the networking. But to keep all those things afloat while also running a YouTube channel and a reselling business is insane. So Midwest Picker question is, Dom selling Mad, Cracked, and what other magazines?
Now, I have to know when I answer this, are you familiar with the Mad magazines over there?
Yeah.
You do? Yeah. You have those over there? I would Alfred E. Newman on there. Yeah. So it's been a big thing that I've talked about a lot on my channel, is sourcing Mad magazines. A lot of people kind of overlook them, but they're really a commentary on pop culture with the covers. They're great to look back and see what was going on at the time in society. And, and then inside there's a lot of good comic and satire material. They're very collectible. I really recommend, trying to source them for less than $1, buy them in bulk. And, if you could find ones from preferably the 1980s or earlier, that's really the sweet spot. 70s, 60s are really good as well. It's hard to find the ones in the 50s. That's when it started, Mad Magazine. And, you could do pretty well. Like, you could sell about 50 of them for somewhere around $150 to $200, just depends. And the closer you get to those 1950s, the greater you could even have potential of going beyond that. And so, and the great thing about the Mad magazines is that the collectors who buy them, they don't really care so much about condition, which is unusual for collectors, but that's because people who stored Mad magazines, back then they didn't have like protective sleeves and stuff to put them in. And the back of all Mad magazines had this trifold, if you remember, where you fold it in 3 spots and then you get a different picture compared to what the original one looks like on the back. And so they're used to them being folded on the back and mangled. And so people will buy them with the covers detached, with like no cover on it. It's crazy. So yeah, and that Cracked magazine is kind of like the stepchild to it. And so I'll throw those in every once in a while. They're just not as collectible as Mads.
Speaking of Mad, Drifter Thrifters Nate is asking, what does the #1 Mad mag sell for?
I do not know, because I've never come across it in the wild, and so I haven't comped it. So you'd have to comp it.
I'm sure there's some good value in the #1 edition. That would be
God, yeah.
So obviously you've got amazing background in in the collectibles and
Gone from the nostalgic reseller to the driven, looking to the future reseller.
yeah,
That's interesting.
It's an interesting switch, and I think a lot of us sort of start as almost collectors and then sort of work out, oh, wait, there's some money in this at the back end. Like I know I started trying to collect N64, Nintendo 64 collection,
Right.
and I was buying, like you said, in bulk and then getting doubles and stuff. And I'm like, what am I going to do with these doubles? And I was like, if I can sell these and make some money on top to drive my collection and make it bigger without spending more and more money, then that's the aim of the game. And I know a lot of people have come in that way. So it's interesting.
Light bulb moment.
Yeah.
Right.
So let's get into sort of the growth and networking part of the chat, because I've sort of been a part of your Facebook group for quite a while and always sort of watch from the sidelines and enjoy the content that's going over there. And obviously your YouTube channel has blown up with some of the stuff that you've been doing. So let's talk the Facebook group first, because
Sure.
There's some great stuff on there. So I'm just going to share my screen here.
Thank you.
Drop
And
it
I
up.
will mention, by the way, Carol, who's here, Carol Cedrone, she is one of the moderators in my group, and I have appointed her. That she wanted to be CEO of eBay, so I appointed her CEO of my Facebook group. Once that slot got filled up, I figured it was the next best thing. So
It's a big job.
It is a big job, so you do need those help. So thanks to Carol for keeping this thing going for us, and because we enjoy it over here as well. So
Right.
I know that you sort of post a lot of like themed community engagement type things, and as you said, over 20,000 members now at the moment, I believe. So it's definitely a cool idea. So what sort of drove you to build this network for people to get involved? Because every week there's something different happening there. There's always like support the seller and all that sort of stuff as well. So what was the sort of like initiation for the Facebook group, and what drove you to build that?
Well, when I was, getting more actively involved into reselling, and around that time, at the same time, I should mention, now my name is Primetime Treasure Hunter, and there's a whole story behind that. But one of the things that I do like is metal detecting.
Yeah.
And that is treasure hunting. It's just a different form of it. And I was watching at the time a lot of videos about that over on YouTube. And you might say, wait, we're not talking about YouTube, we're talking about Facebook. But what happened was I then started to watch other sort of YouTube stuff at the same time. So they would do almost like it was like a treasure hunt for metal detecting, and they would get their hauls and talk about it. Then I started to watch people doing this with comic books. So there's a whole comic book community on YouTube, and I would watch comic book haul videos. And then eventually that started to lead me into watching people who were doing more generally broad reselling haul type of videos. And I started to watch Casey, the Rockstar Flipper, a lot. And I went over to his Facebook group, and I started to just get interested in the whole concept of, community connections. Now, at the time, Casey's group, Thrifters Reseller World, that was probably at about 50,000 people.
Wow.
And I said to myself, and this is one of the things, it's one of the lessons for people, is to just not doubt yourself, and to like, if you really believe in something, go ahead, even though there could be someone who's like miles ahead of you. I never looked at this, by the way, as like a competition with Casey, because he had a Facebook group. I'm friends with him. But I said, you know what? I want to start my own group, and I can't really go into Casey's group and start, talking about my own stuff, because it's not right. It's not my group. It's his group. So I said, well, I have to create my own, but to be able to do that, I need to be able to create a community that's engaging, that, that is supportive, and that, people feel that there's value to it. And so I just decided one day randomly to just put up a title and start my own group. And I just put it out there. And just over time, it just started to, develop, and it just started to, continuously, increase in terms of membership. And you're right, I did a lot of theme things, a lot of seller support things, a lot of things to promote other people, not just to promote me. Sure, yes, I do promote my own stuff. I promote my YouTube, videos when they come out. I promote, some of my items that I have for sale, but that's in the context, by the way, of letting everyone else also post an item of their own. So giving people the opportunity to do that. A lot of groups, you're not allowed to share links. Now we have rules about you can't just come in and drop spam links, because if you open it up to that, everyone will just come in and just spamming the group, and it's not a pleasant experience. But if it's done within a structured activity in which we say, okay, you could add links in this thread, then it works. That's what I found out. Then that type of situation works. The other thing too is that it kind of goes back to what my full-time job I was telling you about. Like, I don't have to do reselling for a living. And that gives me the opportunity to be able to be even extra supportive of people. And it's a way I feel I'm trying to give back to people and do things that are positive to help people out and build them up. Because there's a lot of people who are into reselling who are, really struggling right now, especially with the pandemic and everything. And they need, help and assistance, and they're trying to build their business. And so if there's something that I could do for somebody to help, kick their business up a level, kick it to another notch, I'm able to help people to do that. And that's a good feeling. I like doing that. I like that giving back part. One way we do that is with the Support That Seller Sunday event, where I pick one person from the group who's been a positive member in the community and has supported me and my business usually. And I feature this person, and I tell all the members in the group to go buy from that person. And so that generally, whoever gets picked for that makes about several $100s. Usually right now it's about $400 to $500, sometimes a little less, but it's been up to over $1,000 in sales in a 24-hour period for whoever's picked. And so that's a big help to the person. It gives them, it gives them exposure. And, it's a good feeling to be able to help people. At the same time, you're also helping your own business.
Yeah, definitely. I think, we sort of help run one of the Aussie groups here with Zach, who we flipping good stuff.
Yep.
And a lot of the sort of things that have come out of that have been sort of driven by some of the stuff you run. Like, we do Sunday shout outs, which is similar, where everyone can drop their eBay stores in or their YouTube video, and try and build that community around us, because obviously Australia is quite small in comparison to America.
Yeah.
And it's just good that people can start having a place to go and share what they're doing, so more people can find them. So yeah, it's very cool.
Well, here's the other thing though I'm going to mention about with social media, okay? And this is one of the other things that I felt there was a need for, and it's another reason I created the group. I had experience once in going into another group. It wasn't even a reselling group. It was something that had to do with collectibles. I asked a perfectly logical question, and just some troll that was on there just decided that it would be a perfect opportunity to try to twist whatever question I had around and try to make the person, in that case me, feel like an idiot for asking the question. And it was just a bad experience with that. And so I said, this group that I'm creating, I'm going to make sure from the very moment that it starts that it is known that this is not a group where people are going to get bullied, that this is a group where anyone could feel free to ask a question, where everyone's supported. And if you abuse the rules, even if you're someone who's been there for a while, you will be removed from the group. And when we remove you from the group, you're not getting back into it. No one's ever gotten back in after removal. But, and we have periods, we'll have little waves. We had one about a month ago where I just had to consistently, along with moderators, make sure we're reinforcing that message of the kind of behavior that we expect. And then if we need to, we have to take action. And since then, things have been really good again. We've rarely had incidents, but once in a while, little things happen as the group is growing. But that's the other thing I wanted to have, because there's a need for that. There's a thirst for that, actually. People are just sick and tired of going into groups, asking questions, and feeling like they're getting attacked or they're being made fun of or they're getting trolled. So I wanted to create a safe space for people. And, it's one of these things where if it starts to get out of control, you have to tighten the valve somehow. That could be putting more eyes on the group by getting additional moderators, and just making sure that if you're leading that group, that you're leading by example. You have to do that.
Yeah, definitely. And yeah, I've definitely seen in that group, it's a supportive community, and there's a lot of people trying to help each other up. And I think that lockdown itself has created some struggles for people, and that kind of escalates the sort of negativity sometimes. So trying to drag that back and keep it positive, I've seen that on a few occasions on your Facebook group. So
right.
I think it's a great resource, and we're definitely happy to be a part of it. And obviously we don't always have the same sort of stuff that you guys have, but it's always interesting to see what's going over in America. And you also, a lot of the political stuff that was going on over there, you try to keep it political free because you want it to be an inclusive environment, which I think is a great safe place for people. So
right, that's one of the, especially right now in the United States with what just happened with the election. It's just, it's a very poisonous atmosphere on a lot of areas of social media. And again, that's why I wanted to, and I joke with people. I say, listen, you want to talk about that kind of stuff? That's what your own personal Facebook page is for. Don't bring that kind of, I don't like drama. I don't want any of that stuff. Don't bring it in here. This is a place where I want people to go to just get away from that kind of stuff. So yeah.
It's very hard to get away from it, even here in Australia, because we have an invested interest, obviously, being allies, and we have some American bases in Australia and stuff like that. So it was refreshing to come into the group and not have any of that sort of back and forth, regardless of which side you're on or who you support. Like, you can just go there, enjoy reselling content, and not have to worry about what the other person's thinking on the other end about political views. So
right.
Yeah, definitely. So let's kick into a little bit of the YouTube side of it as well. I have dropped links in the description so people can jump over and check it out as well. But I'm sure most people are over there because we see a lot of Australians talking about your channel. So I'll just bring up your YouTube channel here, and you can give us a little bit of an overview. Here we go. So we've got 19,700 subs, which is crazy, really, when you think about it.
So close.
But give us a little bit of an insight into the YouTube. So I'm presuming similar sort of things. I know that you've brought a lot of people in for various reasons, but yeah, give us a little bit of a YouTube overview and how YouTube has helped you network with other people and also build, I guess for us, it's built our knowledge as well. So I'm presuming it's done the same for you.
Yeah, I learn a lot from the people. In fact, my latest video that I put up was based on something that I learned from people who commented me after I made a prior estate sale haul video on something to be careful of so you don't get in trouble, unknowingly when you source it. But yeah, I mean, there's so many ways. I mean, it has helped. I mean, the interviews, for example, have been excellent. Those actually started after I had gone on, I'm sure you know Wade from Wade's Ventures. He used to run an interview show when he started his channel, and he used to do what I do now, which is have resellers on, and that's how he used to network. And I was like, yeah, it's a pretty good idea. And then Wade and I were talking afterwards, and I interview people for a living. I mean, that's part of what I do. Is we have a whole section of the evaluation that I do that's an interview. So I'm used to interviewing all sorts of people, kids down to age 6, people into their 90s, and their family members, all sorts of stuff. So I know how to do an interview, and I felt like, this could be a good way something else that I could add to the channel. So Wade's like, yeah, you should just start doing an interview every week with somebody. So that's pretty much, how that kind of evolved. And by doing that, you just meet so many people. And a great example is, meeting the both of you. Like, I would not have the connection to Australia without, being able to meet up with you and with Zach, and then with other people as well. Duncan's here, so I always joke around with Duncan. So yeah, there's just so many people. So and I'm meeting new people all the time, like Diary of a Flipper, like getting to know him and stuff. So it's cool. That's great. There's a lot of networking that way. And then in terms of how it started, I don't know if you wanted me to get into that at all.
Yeah, go ahead.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Again, I was watching some of these other channels, not just Casey's channel, but also non-reselling ones like the metal detectorist ones and the comic book haul ones. And I said, I like to teach. I mean, part of my title, my job is clinical associate professor, and I do lectures, and I do presentations. I teach medical residents and stuff like that. So I'm used to putting PowerPoint presentations together and that sort of stuff. So I said, well, this could be something that maybe I could bring in addition to my Facebook group, as I could do this YouTube thing. So I just experimented with it and started. Initially, I was off camera. The first video I ever did was on buying vintage spray cans. I didn't show my face for about a week. And then one day I went out to a flea market, an indoor flea market that was running a sale, and I decided to turn the camera around on me. My wife, who everyone now knows as Mrs. Primetime, was utterly mortified that I decided to do this. And really, like, seriously, it was like a big moment. Like, she was like, listen, I don't think this is a good idea. Like, this is not that you really not need to not do this. This isn't going to work. You're going to, you have a professional job. This is going to come back in some way. It's going to be embarrassing. Like, something's going to happen. I don't trust her, whatever. And I don't normally I listen to the stuff that she says because she's right, but this time, and this is the lesson, is that, I was convinced that I knew what I was doing with this. And I just had a feeling that I was onto something with it. And I wanted to continue it. I wanted to pursue it. And I just convinced her to just let me keep, trying it and just see how it plays out. And finally she relented. I remember standing by the staircase. I was on the bottom of the stairs. She was up on the top, and we were like just talking to each other about it. I'm like, listen, you just got to trust me with this. And now, she does acknowledge at this point that, and she said, yeah, okay, I get to say I told you so on it. But that for this, at least for one thing, I was able to say I was right.
It worked out okay.
I get one thing, and the one thing is the YouTube channel. So yeah.
You've got to take the wins when you can get them. But with your YouTube, like, you've had crazy guests on, all the way from like your rally roots. You've had crazy. You've had Lindy Glenn. You've had Data Refinement. Reezy. You've had a bunch of people on, but then you've also had people that are smaller channels and don't have that sort of forward-facing YouTube channels like those big guys, because I guess that's part of the building, the networking, and learning from people that are just starting out and have been around for ages, because everyone has something to bring to the table. And that's something that we've also tried to do, especially when we did our earlier sort of interviews, was bring people on that hadn't even been on YouTube before, because
lots of first time.
There was a lot of people that now have big YouTube channels in Australia comparatively, because it's something that once you get into it, you kind of enjoy and grow to love. So I think bringing those people on has definitely helped the growth, and I guess that's part of your strategy as well.
Yeah, and not only that, fans like that. Fans don't always want, although fans do like if you bring on, bigger name individuals, they also like to learn about somebody new they've never heard of before. And, they like to see that and to try to, if they see that this person has potential, to try to, start with that person from the beginning and help them build up their community, which a lot of people who are still with me from the beginning have helped do. And that's a fun thing to watch and participate in. Some of the people that I've had on don't even have YouTube channels. Like, for example, 2 weeks ago or so, I did an interview with Katie Reeds, who's a book reseller, and she's only on Instagram. She doesn't have a YouTube channel. I think me and a lot of other people are trying to convince her to get one after she's on my show. But it was one of the best and most popular interviews I ever did. Like, within 2 weeks, it has 6,000 views. It's crazy. And the feedback from it was just amazing. People like that. It doesn't always have to be like some big power name. You gotta mix it up a little bit is what I try to do.
Yeah, definitely. And you've seen that, like, obviously when we first came on, there wasn't too many people in the US that had heard of us at all, and we're still very small, but you willing to bring us on and have a chat to us is incredible. So we kind of want to, I guess, repay that favor a little bit and get you down under.
I appreciate that, because I will tell you now, you're making history, because this is the first time I have ever been on an international interview. So it's the first I've done interviews on other channels, but this is the first one outside the US. So
no way.
Yeah.
I'm sure we'll be,
welcome.
plenty more to come. We're glad to have you.
You got to play some primetime treasure hunter history right there. But no, part of this actually also goes back to, I love learning. I like to pass on like the love of knowledge to people. And part of that involves breaking out of your bubble. Okay. And I talk about this a lot, even like in terms of just like your search strategy. When you go to a garage sale or an estate sale, your bubble is just look in front of you and look what's on tables. And you got to break out of that consciously to say, look on the ceiling. Maybe there's something there. Look on the wall. Look on the floor. I might literally be standing on a rug that I could purchase, like a small rug that someone would buy. I've done this before, So you have to break out of that. And it's the same thing with YouTube, because you might just think, well, I'm in the US bubble and I should just talk about US people. Well, no, wait a minute. There's people outside of the United States who have a hell of a lot to offer over in Australia. So let's get them over here and let's learn from those people. Or I've done a lot of interviews too with people who are not traditionally like in the reselling community. So people who are more in the comic book community, or someone who's actually, I've had a fine jeweler on my show before, and just, people who just do things that are just totally outside. I've had a person on just who specializes in marketing. So, but the person's not a reseller. So I think it's important to just, get people to look outside of their bubble. And then if you could start connecting those multiple communities together, then I think you really have something when you could do that.
Oh yeah, definitely. And a good example of that, Diver Flipper just did an interview with a Pokemon collector, like the card collections.
Oh yeah.
Really? That's hot at the moment. Like that was a really good chat, and it taught me something, because I haven't really gotten the Pokemon market before. So bringing those other people into your channel is incredible, and it can really open some new doors to resellers. And you're right about looking around all around you, because often the stuff under the tables is the stuff in boxes that you find gems. So that's really cool. Red Cardinal just subscribed to us, so thank you very much. Really appreciate it.
She has a good YouTube channel as well, which is also known as Red Cardinal Treasure. So
this is what it's all about.
Making those connections. And part of the chat also about networking. I wanted to talk about your networking, not in terms of Facebook and YouTube, but for your eBay business. So creating those connections with, whether it be sales agents or op shops or thrift stores, as you guys call them. How important are they to your business? So obviously being able to buy people's collections is a big part of what you do. So how do you sort of go about networking with these people and continue to build those networks around you?
Well, I support the people who, I support the people who support me, and I try to maintain that connection. So for example, the estate sale dealers, that's the number one place that I go and I source. And there's a handful of estate sale dealers around here who I just consistently get the best deals from, week after week. And so I feel that's a way of them supporting me. Now, they might not be purposely doing it like to say, oh, I want to support Dom, but the bottom line is they have the best deals. So I want to make sure that I keep supporting them. And so when they have sales, I will just go as a courtesy call, even if I don't think the sale is going to be good. I did that recently at an estate. So I mentioned that, and I make sure that I go up to the estate sale dealer. I make sure I say hi, hello, strike up a little, small conversation or whatever. And it really helps I try to, get my name into their phone, and that really helps. And let them know, by the way, what it is that you like, and tell them you're a reseller. So for example, the best story I could tell you is that for my number one favorite estate sale dealer company that I go to around here, built up a relationship, let her know that I, sell things on eBay and stuff, and that comics is my number one thing. And I always say, I tell her, if you ever come across comics, please let me know. Please let me know. Please let me know. She's told me I rarely ever come across comic books, ever. She tells me I can't even remember the last time I came across comic books. Okay, fine. But if you do, call me. Here's my card. Okay, it says out there comics and everything. So one day I'm just, minding my own business, driving on an errand to go to the grocery store. My phone rings. I see it's her. I pick it up. I pull over to the side. She goes, listen, I got to talk to you about something. She goes, remember when you told me you're interested in comics? I'm like, yeah. She goes, well, we just got this hoarder house. And she tells me I cannot even run the sale. I can't get people in the door because there's so many comic books.
Oh, wow.
They're everywhere. She goes, they're in the room, the floor, the basement. It's insane. They're coming out of drawers. She's like, I don't know anything about these things, and I can't, there's other stuff to sell, but I can't do it unless someone comes and clears the stuff out. So I said, okay. So I go over there, and oh my goodness, over the course of 3 days, I filled up my well, it's like an SUV wagon, so it's an Outback. I filled it up 3 times, 3 separate trips, and it was the best deal that I've ever made, ever. And that was well over a year ago, and I still have comic books from that. Like, this one here right now, This one just sold today for $40. Has a certificate of authenticity on the back. And these things were just laying around. I remember scooping these things up the floor. They all had certificates of authenticity. I'm just picking them up. And it was the best situation because, the estate sale dealer doesn't care. They just want it out.
Yeah.
So I got the stuff for so cheap, like pennies on the dollar for every item. We're talking art pieces as well. That was just amazing. But my point is, it wouldn't have happened unless I built that relationship up, went there week after week, even to sales that weren't going to be good sales, and consistently, not just one time, let the person know I'm into comic books, but repeatedly, almost to the point that, once in a while, you feel like, okay, I don't want to go overboard and bother the person, but you just got to make sure they know and that they remember.
Just staying at the forefront of their mind, because I'm sure they see hundreds of people coming in the door every day and trying to be the one that they remember the most and that they want to deal with the most is, I think it's hard, but you have to just keep putting your name out there and keep pestering them almost until they come up with the deal.
Right. Well, here, I'll tell you a funny story. I did not share this. It was in the estate sale that I did last week. So there's a video in the past in which it's one of my comic haul videos. I go out to this guy's barn. I drive all the way out there. It's like in the middle of nowhere. I'm in this barn and I make this killer score of comic books, all these boxes. I mean, I loaded up my car, everything totally different from the one I'm just talking about. So I told him, I said, listen, I said, anytime you come across, because he does estate sales and he sells at the flea market and stuff. I said, anytime you come across comics again, please let me know. He's like, okay. I say, put me in your phone. That's another tip, by the way. Get them to put the name in the phone and text the person immediately so you know you're in there. So I said, just put me in as Dominic Comics. So, and I'm saying that so he'll remember it, Dominic Comics, right? So I could tell just from talking to the person that he's not the best with knowing people's names and stuff all the time. So this was about 2 years ago or so when this happened, or maybe a year and a half. And so I consistently would see him, hey, you got comics. And once in a while we'd have stuff. Hasn't been anything in I'd say about 8 months or so, but he says he has some. And I keep bothering him. Hey, did you get to the comics yet? No, but I got to dig them out. Okay. Well, please remember, call me back. So then he's running an estate sale last week. I see him and I say, hey, I said, did you get to the comics yet? He goes, no. He goes, I haven't. I go, okay, well, you know to call me, right? He goes, yeah, I know to call you. I go, I'm still in your phone. He goes, yeah, I'm still in your phone. I go, you remember my name? Now, I've known this guy for years. You remember my name? He goes, yeah, I remember. He goes, no, he doesn't say it. He goes, you want me to prove it to you? I go, yeah, prove it to me. So he's like, all right. He goes, I'll get my phone. He goes, he gets his phone. He opens it up. He types in comics, right? And he's totally busted because it comes up, it says Dominic Comics, but underneath it, it says Dave Comics. I go, hey, what is this? I go, what's Dave Comics? Are you cheating on me or something? What's going on here? And he looks at me. He's like, oh, he doesn't know what to say. He's like, well, if you don't pick up the phone, I need someone else to call. I'm like, okay, well, which one am I? Am I Dominic or Dave? And he goes, Dave. I go, no, it's Dominic. Now it became, I had to literally tell him, I'm like, okay, repeat it several times. I'm Dominic. Write it down on my receipt, Dominic. I'm trying to get him. So then he laughed, we did a little joke when I left. After we did all this, I walk away. I'm like, all right, I'll see you later. And he goes, all right, see you, Dave.
That's gold. But trying to be that one that they do ring. And obviously in America, it's a lot more competitive as well, because you've got hundreds of, probably thousands of people, maybe even tens of thousands, even hundreds of thousands of people trying to resell. So trying to be that first one that they come back to, I think is extremely important. And I know that for us personally, we don't have the competition that you guys have, but it's definitely paid off for us in the past, and just building those connections and being the people that they ring and say, hey, we've got this bunch of stuff, can you guys come and get it out of our hands? So I think putting your name out there and just knocking down that door consistently definitely helps build those connections. And I think once you've done it once, it becomes so much easier. That first time that I ever spoke to someone about what I do and, why I do it, I was nervous as crap, because I was like, man, what are they going to think about me? Are they even going to want to deal with me? And now it's to a point where I don't really care, because at the end of the day, if it's a no, it's a no. If they can't work with you, then they won't work with you. But 9 times out of 10, they're usually happy to deal with you, and they're usually happy to get rid of stuff. So I think creating those channels and just getting the confidence to do it.
It's the biggest advantage.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Go
it
ahead.
really is. And also just being, another thing is just being super nice and being super personable really helps. I mean, you can't be a dud. I mean, you just, people have to want to engage with you. So I'll do things like, I'm giving like a little sneak preview. I'm going to put up a video tomorrow. It's me going to, there's going to be more in it than just comic books, but I did a comic book haul, collectible, other kind of collectibles. It's a guy locally who I go to, and he basically gives me a good, like essentially like a wholesale deal on vintage stuff. So it's great. And I go to him like once a month, and I go there and I do hauls, and I rarely show him on YouTube because I'm not allowed to go and put the camera on in the place. So it's not as fun, but once in a while I'll show people what I got. But I'll go in there, and this guy loves, do you guys eat Swedish fish?
I didn't
You never heard of them? They're like they're these, really? I'm going to have to mail you some Swedish fish now. I can't believe you never tried. They're delicious. All right. So yeah, they're these little red sweet fish, and he loves any drink that has mango in it. So every time I go in there, I bring him Swedish fish and mangoes. Now this is an investment of like $1 and something in change, or $2 or something. But it means like a lot to this guy that every time I come in, I think of him and I bring him his mango stuff, his drink, and his Swedish fish. And he likes Chex Mix too. So once in a while, I'll throw a little Chex Mix in there. So he likes that. And I bring him a present like during Christmas time. Same thing with like my mail lady who comes and picks up. We give her a $50 gift card every year. So, it just pays, because people, it's just natural. People want to be nice to you if you're nice to them.
Yeah, definitely. I think that's a massive thing. And like I've done similar with one of the op shops that we go to. We brought them a bunch of biscuits because they're quite a big op shop, and we talked to the managers there. And I was like, oh, I don't know if I should buy gluten-free ones or normal ones. So I bought both. I was like, I'm going to cover all my bases here. I'm going to get biscuits for everyone. And it's definitely paid off. So I think just putting yourself out there a bit more and thinking about what's going to work for the other person, which is sort of what I always go into the situation thinking about. Like, what am I doing for them in return? Because they're providing me with product, but am I clearing space for them? Am I giving them money that they can invest in other things? So I think sort of flipping the switch a little bit and thinking about what's going to work for them is important as well. So that's a strategy that we like to use when we're networking, and it's worked well for us so far. So
absolutely,
yeah. What about growth? So you said a little bit about before buying in bulk and sort of piecing it out. Is that your main strategy for growth? And how do you sort of do you have a goal of growing your business to a level where, it is your main income, or are you always going to do your full-time job?
Great question. So my full-time job, obviously, is my main source of financial support. And it would, as my wife continues to remind me, it would be ludicrous for me to give that up because I invested so much into it. And, she at the same time did as well. I mean, this is someone who traveled all over the United States with me to, to support me while I was, doing all this training for this. So there was sacrifice there as well. And so, you want to make sure that, you're feeling that it was worth it to do all this, and it is. And so basically the way things look is that I'm more than halfway to retirement from that job. So now I'm on the downslide. So I did put 15 years in. I got to put another 15 years in to get to retirement. So I plan on continuing to do that, get to that point. And then at that point, yes, this would wind up being, technically I wouldn't even have to do it, but it will be a thing that I could totally devote, my full-time energy towards. But what I want to do up until that point is just continue to build as much as I possibly can, in the meantime. And we're continuing to do that. So we're doing things like you said, buying things more, in bulk. I always do that at like estate sales and garage sales, but I'm spending less time driving around randomly to places. Like, do it a little bit, but not as much because, there is a time investment into that. And so we're doing some things like buying more from online auctions, done a couple videos from Shop Goodwill, some Disney hauls that we've done, a Disney haul that we did, and also like some animal costume jewelry that we did recently. So that's been a lot of fun, has been paying off. So doing that. And so the key really is diversifying what it is we're getting that we're bringing into the store. Like, for example, I have a lot of comic books in my store, but I have other stuff. But some people who watch my video on the animal jewelry might remember this. It's the first piece that I pulled out of the box. It's this butterfly bracelet. Now we have 19 cents invested into this, and it just sold today for $26. And then we sold some snake earrings today for $14.50. We sold 4 pieces from that jewelry lot, which we purchased for $66.83. There were over 350 pieces in there. We're already into profit on the box. So I'm trying to bring new things into the store. I'd have Disney things periodically, but not to the level that I have now. And that's because my wife, by the way, Mrs. Primetime, is getting those lots, and she's now learning to photograph and list. And so if I could just convince her to be like Jasmin and come on the YouTube channel with me, that would be perfect. I mean, everyone wants that. So, instead I'm stuck with, Pink Panther and stuffed animals that I have to talk to, and like, Betty Boop glasses and things. That's what I have. So until she comes back, the most is Mrs. Primetime's hand shows up in the video. So who knows?
Come on, Mrs. Primetime.
Yeah, come on. She's watching. Come in. Yeah. So so there's that, and I'm just going to continue to do that and diversify again what I'm sourcing and where I'm sourcing it from to continue to grow.
Definitely, and I think that's something that we've sort of we've sort of not changed the way we source, but added
evolved.
Yeah, evolve is probably a good word. So obviously we still enjoy going op shopping and garage sailing and all that sort of stuff.
Oh yeah,
but that's probably at the moment like 30% of our business. And probably the 60 to 70% of our business is auctions, buying in bulk from people that we've made connections with, wholesalers.
Yeah.
We want to kind of, I think there's a certain level here. Well, here in Australia, I don't know what it's like in the US, but there's a certain level that you can build to by doing that, like op shopping and garage sailing or thrift stores and all that sort of stuff. But to get to that sort of next level where it replaces 2 incomes, you need to sort of change your goals a little bit and work out how you're going to source that much stock to sell that much stock to make the money. So, it's an interesting sort of it's an interesting inflection point, I think, when you get to that point and you're like, all right, either I double down on sourcing and spend 2 to 3 days sourcing a week, but then I've got to list it all, or do I start shifting to 1 day sourcing a week, 1 day online sourcing a week, and then 5 days of listing? So I think it's a hard balance.
Not only that, but you guys know, because you're running a YouTube channel too, so you're trying to balance that as well. And that's the tricky thing, is that the more you get involved in these other projects, there's a certain point where you've got to realize, okay, I've put the maximal energy I can into this, and you either need some additional support or help, or there's something, or you have to shift things, like you said, in order to make everything work and be in balance. Because once things start going out of balance, the other part's going to fall apart.
Exactly.
Yeah, and like Drifters is saying they like the driving around part, and we love it too. But I think it's just a matter of working out what's going to work for your business. So that part of our business change was Jazzy went full time, and that gives me time to focus on putting out good content on YouTube, or trying to put out good content on YouTube, and doing that part, as well as like sourcing the bigger bulk buyers. And Jazzy does a lot of the sort of listing and the preparation type stuff. So I think working out how to make your business roll and work well is a massive part of growth, because if you get a bottleneck, then you can't grow. So I think that's very important when it comes to growth. So
absolutely.
What would you say is your biggest bottleneck in your business, Dom? What's your biggest roadblock?
Time.
Yeah.
Time. It really is. I mean, I know that's not anything that's unique, but it's just continuing to try to develop ways to be more efficient, which I've done a lot of that over the years. But like I said, even that is going to hit its maximal capacity when you're one person trying to juggle so many things. So at a certain point, you really need help. And I tell you that, like, having my wife listing things and getting up to, getting a couple listings done during the day is great, because it helps to take some of the pressure off of me, that I feel like, wow, I've like I'm spending time making a YouTube video and I'm not listing.
Mm-hmm.
But if I'm making the YouTube video and I get off and I see she put 3 listings up, that's a big, big help. I can't even explain how much of a help that is.
Yeah, massive. Like I think when you're juggling so many things like you are with your Facebook group and your YouTube channel, having having some sort of like support network behind you, to even if it's like you said, 2 or 3 listings, it's 2 or 3 listings that you don't have to worry about.
Right. And I should say too, with the Facebook group, impossible at this point for me to manage it without my moderators. They are amazing. They're amazing. But they wouldn't be doing what they're doing to the extent that they are if they didn't believe in it in the way that I do, if they didn't have the same vision. So they have to have that in order to do what they're doing to help that group run the way it is. Because if I'm in the hospital, or if I'm doing a remote assessment now because of COVID, and I'm tied up for 4 hours essentially with like a brief break period, and there's some firestorm that erupts, I can't get to it. And it's not a good experience for group members for something to be sitting out there for 4 hours. That's big dumpster fire. They're right on it. And then they'll let me know if they have a question later on, okay, what should we do to ultimately resolve this? But they're there to at least, put it out. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, definitely. I think having those people that can, help build your business while engaging them in providing support, I think is huge, because finding those people that have the same vision as you often is quite difficult. So those people are rare, and I think you've definitely built a great community around you. So, and
you're all going to gain from it.
Yeah, definitely. And I think that's been a part of our ethos, is like, we have great people around us like Diver Flipper and the Aussie VHS Thrifter and Zach and a lot of those other people, and Thrifty Pixie, that, we all grow together as a community. We all learn from each other and we all support each other. So there's so many others in Australia that are, up and coming as well. So it's really cool to see the Australian community grow. And probably a part of that is, to do with your Facebook group and the way that you support Australians as well as Americans and whoever else pops in the door. So we want to thank you as well for supporting us and getting us over on your channel, so that we can help grow the Australian community. So
we'll have you back again, because you won the thrift battle first round, and so we're gonna have to see who your next opponent is going to
be. That was great fun, and Mike and Orlando, we've created a great relationship with them through that as well. So that's all part of the networking, isn't it? Like,
I meant to ask if you guys kept in touch after that.
Yeah, we've had them on, and we've been on their channel, and we talk here and there on Instagram. And
Dom's a matchmaker.
Yeah, he is. I love it. They're great dudes, those guys. So it's definitely.
I should do that. Reselling matchmaking.
I think you do it right. You've got the community for it. I love the community. Everything I've learned, my business wouldn't be half without Tuaf and the amazing people around me.
And your hard work.
Yeah, Flipper's just gone full time probably a couple months ago now. So his growth is going to be awesome to see, and he's bringing stuff to the community that we have no idea about. So we love what he's doing. So there's definitely massive bonuses in networking in your community, and obviously Dom is a big contributor to that. So we wanted to hear a little bit before we head off what's coming up for you, Dom, over on your channel. So like we said, there is a link in the description for people to jump over and check you out, but give us a couple minutes spiel of what's sort of coming up on the horizon for Primetime Treasure Hunter.
All right, so tomorrow, I'm still filming it, but tomorrow there will be this video in which I discuss this really amazing haul that I did at this comic and collectible source that I have. So it won't be all comic books. There'll be some other cool things as well. And also something that I went to pick up through a Facebook Marketplace deal for Mrs. Primetime to help her stay more organized for her business. It's a furniture-related item. And while I was there, I happened to ask the elderly gentleman who sold it to us, a little sneak peek for people watching this tonight. I said, hey, do you happen to have any comic books around? And he said, now 97 out of 100 times they tell me no.
Yeah.
But he actually looked at me and he said, yeah, I do. And I'm like, really? He's like, yeah, let me go get them. So he comes down with 2 boxes of comics, and I wound up buying them from him. And then I gave him my card, and he might have more, and he might have other stuff. So that's part of what's going to be in tomorrow's video. So there's going to be a lot of fun there. And then a big thing that I have going on. I've started to do this once a month now. It's called the Cha-Ching-a-thon.
Yeah.
So this is a newer live. It's the 7th one that we've done. It's basically a combination of it's a live show and it's also an auction. I auction off a few pieces. I usually do a giveaway, so I'll give away like a Support That Seller Sunday slot and usually like something else. And but the whole concept of the Cha-Ching-a-thon, which is important to what you were asking about today about building relationships, is that I take 2 people who are in the chat and they sent the way we do it now is they send me their up to 5 item numbers for that's on their eBay page. And if they get picked, they basically face off against one another. And I basically pitch their items to the audience. And whoever sells it fastest gets to stay on and then sell it to and then compete with the person who purchased the item from them. So then that person gets, so it incentivizes buying. And so now that person's on, and we've had people make like 9 sales in a row on the show. So they're literally making money
live
on the YouTube channel. So it's been a lot of fun. And I've had to expand how long we do it. The first time I did it was just like an hour. But now I start that show at like 8 o'clock. Normally it's a 9 o'clock Eastern Standard Time start, but that one is an 8 o'clock start because there's just so much going on. I want to feature as many people as possible and get them involved. So there's that's coming up as well. Exciting interviews coming up, including, I'm not going to say who it is, but because I always like to tease this stuff, but I will tell you there's someone who you've mentioned here tonight. Fellow Aussie. I mean, I'll tell you off the air, but who's going to be on my channel by the end of the year. It's going to be an amazing show. So I cannot wait for that. So Australian fans, definitely make sure you do come over to my channel, subscribe, hit the notification button up top because you won't want to miss seeing one of your own interviewed here on the channel, on the Primetime Treasure Hunter YouTube channel.
We love it.
It's going to be awesome. Looking forward to that for sure. So make sure you head over to Dom's channel. The link is in the description if you haven't checked him out yet. We'll definitely be tuning in for that Aussie one. We do try and get across as much as we can, but obviously with time differences and work and stuff.
Yeah. I love when you drop in. I always say that I gone international when you I always give you guys a shout out when you come in.
No, we love it. So thank you very much for joining us again. And massive thank you for supporting us in our growth, and we definitely wouldn't be where we are without your support. So
and not just us either, but our little
community,
Australian community that's getting bigger and bigger.
Yeah,
it's my pleasure.
Massive thank you. Just quickly before we go, Tuesday night we'll have another guest on coming from the UK this time. So
global
thrifters will be joining us. Massive up and coming channel over in the UK. They're absolutely smashing it over there. Great couple. So we're looking forward to getting them on. But in the meantime, we want to thank everyone for joining us on a Sunday. If you're watching back, make sure you leave a thumbs up and check out Dom over on his channel. And we will see you next time on Aussie Thrifters.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks you,
for coming, Dom.
Thank you.